How to help your high-strung teen. Are you noticing a lot of emotions in your teen? Sad or despondent, then happy. Being lost in their own world, then brimming with frustration. Maybe all of these emotions in one day. Let's look at what's going on inside. We'll look at the changes in their brain and body throughout puberty, mainly focusing on sleep. Then we'll look at what challenges teenagers regularly face and how that might affect their emotions. We'll look at some common coping strategies and how to alleviate some stress in a healthy way. Finally, we'll offer some advice on how to be your teen's ally and help them navigate adolescence. We'll look at one major change in particular: sleep. We all know sleep is important, but how much do teens need? You might have heard some conflicting numbers, but according to the American Academy of Sleep Medicine, teens need between 8 and 10 hours of sleep per 24 hours. Teens who are regularly getting less than 8 hours sleep may heighten the risk of chronically insufficient sleep, which can have major impacts on both physical and mental health. Our wake-sleep cycles, also known as circadian rhythms, change pretty drastically through puberty, and adolescents are known to prefer later bedtimes and later wake-ups. On average, teens start to get naturally tired at about 12 or 1 in the morning. However, consistently going to bed at that time doesn't provide enough sleep to be energized for school the next day. Sleep, of course, is vital for bodily health, memory, and learning. Not getting enough could very much impair performance in class and those all-important exams. That may have stressed you out to hear, and you may be thinking, well, what should you do then? First, set a sleep schedule with your teen. You may know what they need, but make them part of the conversation so they can understand and get on board with the idea. Work out how much sleep they need, whether you can see 8 hours is about enough, or if they should be looking at more. Then simply subtract that from their waking time. If they need to be out that door at 7:45 and they're always fixing their hair at 7:42, it might be wise for an earlier wake up and an earlier bedtime. Create a sleep-inducing environment. In that hour or so before bedtime, avoid bright lights and screens. TVs, phones, video games are all best left on charge before we do the same for ourselves. And best avoid caffeine, sugar, and other food and drinks that are likely to keep us wired and awake. Don't worry about the weekend lying. We all love that extra hour in bed, and for teens, that might be an extra 2 or 3 hours. Parents might be concerned or frustrated about this, and if they need to be up, they need to be up. But if they don't, studies have shown that weekend lions have few, if any, negative effects in the long term. And remember to wind down. After a long day, combined with a sleep-inducing environment, engage in a calm, easy activity to help relax. It especially helps if you and your teen do this together. Things like light exercises and stretches such as a walk or yoga, reading, crafts like knitting, or other low-intensity activities can help the brain settle down for sleep. Most importantly, establish a routine. Whether you try to incorporate all of our advice or just a few things, try to make it consistent. Sleep hygiene, also known as the bedtime routine, is important. Show your teen how to maintain their routine by creating time for reading or other calm activities that slow down the brain. Most teenagers between 13 and 17 have shown a bigger connection with social media and online games. Screen time, as we've said, is not recommended in the 2 hours before bedtime due to the high brain activation they cause. Now, let's look at some of the other challenges teens are facing. We'll explore some common triggers for teens and the emotional resilience needed to face them. We'll take a brief look at 7 common triggers that teens deal with: stress, body image, social media, trauma, harassment, responsibility, and identity. These will be brief overviews. If you'd like more information on any of these triggers in particular, there will be links at the end of the video. The main sources of stress are academics, family, relationships, whether platonic or romantic, bullying, and feelings of exclusion. Negative body image has always been a concern among teens, but has grown more pervasive with the introduction of social media. Body image refers to how one thinks or feels about their bodies. Things like, I'm weirdly tall, My legs look different from other people's, and I like my nose. During puberty, the body undergoes changes in height, weight, and development of sexual characteristics. This may leave them feeling dissatisfied with their bodies, and they may struggle to accept the appearance. Social media. Research has shown that online peer neglect, negative reactions, and social media addiction reduces social well-being. Teens are in a time of discovering their own identity, and social media develops a social identity. Failure to get validation from online peers may leave teens feeling left out. This is on top of real dangers such as online grooming, which also deteriorates mental health. Childhood trauma. Traumatic experiences can leave lasting impacts like strong physical and emotional reactions. Trauma is also associated with mood disorders, impulsivity, and helplessness. And we all had moments in our childhood that affected us. We might not be able to change these things, but how we and our teens handle them now and in the future matters most. Online harassment. Excessive use of social media among teens makes them more prone to cyberbullying and impersonations. Experiences of public shaming and hacking into personal accounts are also prevalent. Responsibility. Studies have shown that girls tend to take on either forced or assumed responsibility, leaving them feeling stressed. In the process, they may end up neglecting their own needs and feel frustrated. As a result, they often find it difficult to prioritize academic and personal commitments. Gender incongruence. Sex-specific physical changes often make teenagers vulnerable to behavior problems. Gender incongruence refers to mismatch between birth sex and gender identity. This leads them to feel negatively about their bodies and feel a lot of distress. We've looked at changes, and we've looked at challenges. Now let's look at some unhealthy coping mechanisms. These are ways your teen might try to deal with issues that can cause damage in the long term. A study from Bulacan and the Journal of Art and Higher Education found the most common symptoms of stress in teens aged 13 to 19 and asked how regularly these symptoms affected the participants. 30% of teens in the study dealt with near constant issues with appetite, more than 20% with sleeping difficulties, and between 15 and 20% dealt with feelings of both depression and irritability as a result. At least 20% of the same teens dealt with daily feelings of irritability, hostility, and anxiety, as well as physical pain such as headaches and pain in their shoulders, necks, and backs. And 20% of the teens in the study experienced all the symptoms included in the list on a weekly basis, with the exception of digestive troubles affecting 15% of teens. We'll go into more detail about 3 of the more common symptoms. Eating too much or too little. This information is not specifically about eating disorders. For more information on eating disorders, visit the NHS website. For many young people, food is something, often one of the few things, that they have direct control over, and it can be a source of both pleasure and discomfort. This means it's easy for young people to misuse food and drink in response to stress and uncomfortable feelings, resulting in either excessive eating or avoidant style eating. Excessive eating. Driven, also known as true or physical hunger, is a feeling we all know. Stomach growling, hunger pangs, etc. Excessive eating is usually considered as eating for pleasure. Food as reward or as comfort is something we commonly call hunger, but intuitively understand is slightly different. If you're concerned about excessive eating in your teen, think about these 2 things. Think about rewards. Does your teen lack feelings of reward outside of food? What reward system could you implement that could replace snacking? And consider how your teen comforts themselves. What distresses are they seeking to comfort? Look at your teen's other stress factors and their means of coping with distress. Try and give them some other options. Avoidant eating. Restrictive and avoidant eating can be described several ways. Consistently no or low appetite, a mental block around eating, or an aversion or repulsion regarding food. Most commonly, restrictive eating habits are a result of a disposition to weight concern. Common logic in restrictive eaters is that they must be in control of their weight. In adolescents that didn't report weight concerns, the sensation of being in control was still positively correlated with restricted eating habit. We'll look at the most common causes of the most common aches and pains reported in the study. Headaches were self-reported to mostly be caused by stress, dehydration, and long periods of focus on a topic or task without break. Shoulder, back, and neck pain mostly were reported by poor posture, multiple hours of sitting regardless of posture, and stress. Finally, digestive issues were mostly caused by poor diet, poor routines with eating and sleeping, and, you guessed it, stress. Finally, we have some advice for our parents. We're looking at ways to help you help your teens cope. And we all know that, no matter how much you want to, you can't cope for them. So how can you help them cope themselves? We recommend building trust by creating a working alliance. It's a term mainly used in therapy, but the techniques and ideas can apply here. Show your teen that you have the same goal, that they can talk to you about mistakes and ask questions totally free of judgment. Communicate your feelings and allow them to communicate their feelings to you at their pace. And allow the solving of problems or creation of coping strategies to be a collaboration between the two. Here's our advice. 1. Model self-control. It's important that your teen sees you have emotions and then not allow those emotions to dictate your actions. 2. Understand and empathize with the fact that your teen is still in development. They will go through different phases of behavior and attitude, because that's the journey we all need to take to learn who we are. 3. Distinguish between emotion and action. Talk about the fact that just because we feel something doesn't mean we act on the first impulse that comes with that feeling. Feeling angry is okay. Hitting, fighting, and breaking things because we're angry isn't. Teach self-care and coping strategies. Learn your own stress signals, whether it's fatigue, cravings, or irritability. And tell them what you do when you need to deal with stress, whether that's a candlelit bath, a session in the gym, or a moment of peace and quiet. Firm, flexible boundaries. Setting clear, consistent rules helps teens understand expectations and consequences. Flexibility within those boundaries allows teens the independence they crave to develop their identities. Balancing firmness with adaptability builds trust and teaches teens the importance of responsibility. 6. Acknowledge and validate their emotions. Even if a teen's emotions seem irrational, they're very real to them. Validating these feelings, rather than dismissing them, shows that parents respect their teens' experiences. 7. Positive reinforcement. Recognize and reinforce small improvements in self-regulation. Praising efforts like taking a deep breath or calmly expressing needs helps teens feel seen and motivates them to continue developing self-control. And 8. Patience and openness. Building a strong connection with a high-strung teen takes time and takes patience. Parents should strive to be non-judgmental, actively listen, and be available for when the teen is ready to talk. This helps build trust and can make it easier for the teen to open up later. Thank you very much for listening. If you'd like more information, please click on the links below.